All right, we're live. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, we're live. Let's go ahead and today I'd like to drive towards a decision on the one-to-one versus one-to-many. In addition to the one-to-one and one-to-many, AJ has a proposal of a bit of a blended solution. So we can go through and discuss those. On the agenda document, I've added each of the proposers to the issue, and if you don't mind, I'd love to have you sort of go through the proposal and have a little bit of a discussion with that. So Ben, you thank you very much for taking the action item and preparing the one-to-many proposal. Would you like to walk us through issue number 44?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfectly.
Cool. I'm actually in transit to work right now, so I might cut out. But basically, long and the short of it, the idea was that we would basically structure it such that people would split into small project groups rather than individual mentors. So you'd have, 4 mentors to a mentee, and you'd kind of pick a project around the node project and then be able to kind of move towards that project as a team. And then as people had questions, or if there was a need for more of a one-on-one mentorship, there'd still be the opportunity to do so. So you could, through Slack, have kind of one-on-one conversations, or even set up a Zoom meeting and provide more one-on-one mentorship, but have it centered around kind of a group working on a project rather than individuals working together, which I think overlaps a little bit with some of what AJ was proposing.
Right.
But that's basically what I was picturing. So kind of project focused with a small team rather than individuals.
Let's go through some of the pros and cons of this. I flagged in the last meeting as a mentor. This begins to really to really explode in terms of time commitment. In addition to managing the folks that are in the mentorship project, the mentor is going to have to also sort of do some pre-work and project work, to get everything, the work of a project manager, basically, right? You're going to have to, aggregate up, things for folks to do and make sure everyone is feeling productive in doing those things. So, while I'm really excited to, potentially go out and do higher impact, one-to-many, I want to make sure that we're really managing expectations with the mentors as we explore this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, as you say, like, one of the disadvantages is you're going to need to have a more structured format around what the heck people are working on. The advantage maybe is that you can potentially bring more of the pool in, so we don't have to wheedle it down from 500 people to 50 people somehow to be able to give mentorship.
Right. Okay. Well, let's keep that in mind, and I know AJ has a blended approach, and so I don't want to open up discussion of how we can blend this. Any other sort of positives or negatives that anyone wants to highlight before we move on to the one-to-one discussion?
Hey, this is Conrad. I wanted to just kind of reinforce my agreement with starting out this way. The one-on-one pairing process, it's skills, and it doesn't necessarily scale well right off the bat. The biggest challenge that you're going to find here, though, is personality and schedule, and that's going to make it even harder to maintain the ratio of mentor and mentee that you want. The comparison that I like to make here is that it's all about ratios, and there are numerous businesses on the internet that try to endure a long-term relationship and make that pairing happen. That's super hard, and nobody has gotten it right. So doing it like on this basis, having a one-to-many and letting those sort of one-to-one relationships occur organically may be way easier from an administrative perspective.
Right. So, Conrad, you've done a lot of, a lot with mentorship. Do you have any insights on, the advantages of, I guess it's many to many, isn't it? Having multiple mentors engaged to sort of allay some of the organizational costs of having a large group?
Yeah, absolutely. Like one of the things that we prototyped was sort of a squad-based system, which is a little bit similar to the hybrid model that's mentioned here, where it's like, hey, we have one lead mentor and one secondary, so that way, you're not necessarily one deep in anything. And they have a small group. So like, I think a lot of folks who want that one-on-one relationship will broach that question as a part of the grouping. Though folks who might be just happy to have somebody that they can coordinate with and ask questions every once in a while and aren't looking for like a more sustained thing, they're getting what they need. And so you don't need to dig up any further in terms of like the pairing process, because when it comes to the one-to-one only approach, the challenge is people dropping off the map and you not knowing it. And then you lose the mentor and the mentee because the mentor might be disengaged, or the mentor just has no idea what happened with the mentee, or the other way around. That communication aspect is huge.
So yeah, there's just more sustaining members to keep it sustained. Right on.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So let's see. One to many. Opesenya is not here. Thank you. Oh, hey.
I'm here.
Hey, great.
Yeah.
Do you go by Bayo or
I think Bayo works fine.
Bayo, okay. Thank you, Bayo, for laying that out. So do you want to go and run us through one-to-one?
Sure, I can. All right. So for me, I try to look at the pros of the one-on-one approach, and one of them is the fact that the mentees have a more personalized experience, and then also the fact that a one-on-one seems more mentee focused, right? So I think it will be easier to track mentee involvement if it's one-on-one, because it's easier to notice when someone is unavailable, unlike we're a group of 3 or 4 and then there's only like 2 people engaged, because like I currently run some sort of mentorship arrangement with some people. So and it was just today somebody buzzed and is like, oh, sorry, I've not been around for a while, and I'm like, I didn't even notice because I was managing a number of people.
Wow, okay.
Exactly. But if it was just him, it would have been easier to notice that, oh, okay, this guy has been missing. Then I could ask him, what's going on. So I feel like it would be easier to track if there is a lack of engagement or a loss of interest or a problem. And I will also add the fact that it might be easier to probably open up to someone if it's something a little bit personal. Well, since you are managed by one thing, so also in my own case again, for example,
Breaking up a little bit, Bayo. And I've lost Bayo.
I think I'm back now. My network is unstable. Yeah. So I was saying that it will be easier to maintain commitment level for mentors, regardless of sudden changes in their own schedule. I had this experience recently because, like I said, I manage a group of people. So I work a full-time job and we had a strict deadline and then they had to just go off. It was okay, so I found it difficult to have to narrate to everybody. Okay, this is what is going on and all
Right.
that. I feel it would have been easier if it was just one guy where I could just be him. Okay, so can you just chat me up at 1 a.m. or chat me up at 2 a.m. if you have an issue, stuff. So, and then also because we are still starting off, so we still have that still affords us the opportunity to test out the one-on-one more easily. And so switching, if we find out that a one-on-one doesn't work, I feel like it's easier to switch to one-to-many than to start with one-to-many and then find out that it doesn't work and try to switch back to one-to-one. Then you have a lot of problems. People can just get emotional. You're destroying group, all that stuff. So that can really, that might be difficult to implement if we find out that one-to-many doesn't work out, as we plan. Yeah. But on the con side of things, I think the major con for me will be the fact that we won't be able to implement this very quickly. It'll take a bit of time. On the other hand, already, so we are rushing anyway. So it's like a next thing, but that's like.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the perspective of managing a large group and the challenges there. My experience with one-on-one mentorship, is that I've gotten into points with my mentors where we're chasing each other's calendars. That's a lot easier if you kind of have a bit more of a personal relationship, or you establish some rapport with the individual. But when you don't, when you're sort of bringing together folks across the internet like this, I am a bit concerned about how much we can lean on rapport and kind of the expectations of having mentors and mentees representing the Node.js project and doing the right thing and being present. A little bit worried about that. All right. Well, let me open the floor to anyone else who wants to make comments on one-to-one, and then we'll discuss blended and kind of walk through a couple of scenarios there.
I had a question about one-to-one.
Yeah.
Is it so far been the way it's being discussed? Is it being treated as one mentor has one mentee total, or could a mentor potentially have a one-on-one relationship with multiple mentees at once?
My expectation has been that the mentors, could have up to 2 mentees. At least that's what I've wanted.
Okay.
I don't know that that's been documented anywhere. That's
okay, sure. I just wanted to clarify, because that was the impression I had was just the one mentee, and that was kind of how I approached my issue, was from that standpoint. So I may be a little bit off base on some of my points because of that.
Well, I think that that consideration is valid for an experienced mentor, right? So I don't think we would want to make that an option for someone who's doing this for the first time, I'd want them to, be able to go in and, get a sense for the rhythm, the flow, and the effort that it takes. I do this sort of stuff almost full time, so it's really easy for me to drop into, okay, hi, what are your needs, and provide some helpful context. So for me, as with a little bit more experience, managing a couple mentors, is really not a big deal. But I don't want to sort of impose that on others, or my enthusiasm on others.
Sure.
Great. Well, AJ, why don't we, use your, blended proposal to sort of kick off and, explore that. And I think we'll probably transition from here into, a few more permutations of blended. Go ahead.
Okay. So it's been a few weeks since I wrote this, so I'm a little fuzzy on what I had exactly. So let me pull that back up. And I appear to have closed that page for some reason.
Issue 44. Yeah, so drop a link.
Oh, here we go. All right. So, right. The first, okay. Right. I had two different solutions. The first was, like you said, kind of a blended approach. And it said that way more mentors are retained or gained, because the ones, some mentors will want to do a one-to-one, and some will feel more comfortable with one-to-many. That way, whoever wants to do what can choose. Whereas, some people may feel so strongly about one or the other that they won't participate if the other's chosen as the go-to. Also, it caters to personal preference on the end of the mentees. So same there, they may or may not wish to participate if it's not the type of thing they were hoping for. And as far as the cons of it, obviously increases the complexity of managing it. But I felt like it was a reasonable level of complexity that could be dealt with through planning. That was my first solution. Do you want me to just stop with that? That was the blended approach.
Great. Yeah, let's go. Let's stop and have a discussion. Like, since you've gone through several permutations.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone want to comment on their thoughts or concerns on this? Or shall we continue the exploration of blended options? Okay, let's keep on going.
Okay, so this one wasn't so much a blend of one-to-one, one-to-many. It's just a whole. It's more to deal with the durations. As opposed to a 6-month duration, which is what's been discussed so far. I thought there could be some alternatives to that were possibly overlooked. I've not been involved, but for the last 3 weeks or so, 3 to 4 weeks. So, okay. So one was considering a fast track for well-suited participants. So for, someone who's maybe done dozens or hundreds of PRs on other projects and just doesn't understand the node process. Mm-hmm. It felt a bit much to me for them to need to enroll in a 6-month program when they probably just needed a little bit of guidance. So if doing that allowed us to get through a whole bunch of the hundreds of mentees that there are, then it could be worth looking at. And then the other was, or another potential solution in that vein was a queue-based dynamic duration, wherein a mentor would kind of pick up mentees dynamically as they attain their goal. So kind of with the same type of people in mind, someone who didn't need a whole lot of hand-holding, they just needed some points cleared up, and they were able to get their PR merged, then okay, great, you're graduated. Let me go grab another mentee out of the queue and have just kind of a rolling cohort rather than a specific, okay, everybody's starting today and 6 months from today, everybody will be finished.
Right. And what about the smaller time cycles? In issue 44, there's a really interesting discussion around the 6 month time cycle and the understanding that in 6 months you're probably only going to get 6 to 12 meetings with somebody, and thus 6 months is a duration for progress, right? We're sort of optimizing for the mentee and making sure that they from start to finish have achieved their goals and made the progress that they want to.
Right. I guess my argument there was that it wasn't necessary that to do the 6 months, that you could still make sure that they reached their goals, and that, you could still verify everything that needed to happen had happened without 6 months having to have passed. I didn't mention the pros and cons of that one. It was the pros, I felt, was it was very, very useful for getting through that backlog, and thereby preventing burnout of the mentors, and especially the facilitators, to be trying to, as you've said before, there's a small group of, I'm using the word facilitators. By that, I mean the working group members here. There's a small number trying to facilitate a very large organization structure. So to me, the quicker we can get some of these first round mentors hopefully onboarded into the working group and have a larger number of facilitators and get a better ratio, that seems like a really important goal to me, and that this would help with that. On the con side, it's the same as the other thing I mentioned, which is increasing complexity. But again, I think it is manageable and would be worth the cost if we can plan around it.
Right. I've been wanting to reach for an initial, I'm okay with us, once we have the model defined, 6 months, if that's the right duration, great, fantastic. But we're designing into the unknown, right? And in that, a agile approach is usually more effective. Reaching back in my software engineering, the more you are operating in the unknowns, the more a collective and collaborative effort works best. And agile is kind of in the middle of that spectrum, and then extreme programming, pairing all the time, and working in small clusters and constantly iterating is kind of how you solve the extreme edge of that. In terms of an initial cohort, if we scaled back to 3 months, or even if we scaled back to 1 month, let's get a group, in flight for 1 month, and give them the opportunity to get started. We have a fun waymarker ahead of us that we could use as kickoff for this. So at the beginning of June, we're going to have our collaborators summit in Berlin. So the Europe Collaboration Summit. And so that would take us, June to July, and then August, September, October. If we did a month for the first one in June, and then July through September, that second cohort of 3 months would end at the second collaboration summit. So we'd have some sort of big collective alignment points that we could go through a 1 month, the 3 months, and then consider having that is like, all right, are we ready to go with full 6 months flow?
I also was wondering, had it been discussed to have this treated as sort of like a software approach of like having a beta, take a very small group of mentees and mentors that are manageable by the current staff or facilitator numbers we have now, and maybe try a few with one-to-one, try a few of them doing one-to-many, and maybe a few with a blended approach, and see what some of the real problems that come up are, rather than like you said, basing everything off hypotheticals right now.
Yep. So AJ, what I'm hearing is you're volunteering to join the team.
Yeah. I am. I expressed interest in we need more active.
Always be recruiting.
Issue. I don't know if there's any prerequisites, but I'm happy to join.
That's perfect. Yeah, I think that's how we get from there's enough unknowns that we really don't there's not a standout winner, right? Mm-hmm. There've been some sort of blocking concerns, and I still think we need the bat phone set up. So Waffle.js has a really cool phone number that they use to call if anything happens live during the event. And it pipes out to Twilio and then notifies all the team members. Something like this is the only thing that I feel like we're missing to have things kicked off, right? Some mechanism that in a scenario where someone feels uncomfortable, that we have alerting mechanisms set up for mentors and mentees. With that, I'm comfortable exploring the one-on-one, together with the one-to-many, and doing an initial, full cycle of maybe one of each, right? We lay out each of the approaches. Get a mentor, volunteer that's going to take the additional burden of not just doing the mentorship, but providing the feedback, right? Everybody who gets selected has kind of this qualification gate of do you agree in beta to that as your first responsibility to provide feedback.
Right. That's pretty much exactly what I was envisioning.
Great.
Okay, so it's more like we going with the both approach, right? We go with the one-to-one and one-to-many to see all the mentors are interested in one-to-many and the mentors are interested in one-to-one. Okay, my major concern at this point is how do we get to pair one-to-one? Like if we have 50 mentees and we have about 10 mentors, and if we're giving them one-to-one, we are actually outnumbered. How are we going to manage the numbers of mentors and the numbers of mentees that we currently have with the one-to-one approach?
So, I think the the reality is that not every mentee in the first 1 month sort of beta run is going to get we just don't have the capacity. But we're by limiting that first cohort to 1 month, that gives us the opportunity in just a month to say, all right, wow, folks really love one-to-many. We're gonna choose that as the go forward model, and we'll be able to grind through, right? At this point, the most important thing for us to do is really begin to manage expectations, right? If everybody can buy into, all right, this is our timeline. June, we're doing our first cohort, and then we have we'd like after that to start a 3-month cohort and track towards a 6 month after that. As long as everything is moving forward well, then we can begin to have 6 month commitments starting in like October.
So okay, that solves a little bit of the problem. All right. How if we are going with the one-to-one approach, do we still get to collect data from the Node.js projects, like have projects on the Node.js
we still
project?
need yeah. We still need that to anchor your anchor the one-to-manys for sure, and potentially some of the one-to-ones too.
Okay, that solves a lot of. So I think we're good here. So we're actually going with the both approach. We have the one-to-one and one-to-many. That works fine.
How's that work going? Have you been able to get that outreach started? Because that's going to be one of the things that we'll need to line things up for June.
Which outreach are you speaking with me?
Oh, no, sorry. That was for Giri, who had taken an action, I believe, with the ComCom to go out and collect some of the, reach out to each of the working groups and say, hey, we have individuals who are interested in collaborating and working on project-based basis, and there's an opportunity. Please let us know what you'd like folks to contribute.
Yeah, I've done that. I've been able to get some projects, but that should be in a private meeting. After this, I can share some more details with you on that, and the process that we'll be taking towards approaching that maybe 10 minutes at the end of the meeting. Okay.
Great.
That sounds like the initiative I'm actually heading up. Based on the priority document issue in this repo that I've been discussing with Michael Dawson. We actually had a meeting yesterday and kind of moved forward a little bit with that. That we're going to reach out to the ComCom for permittance to open a separate repo for the different working groups to be able to raise issues on. For things that they would like worked on or have a special need for, as well as I need to reach out to the node.js org repo and see if that document would be suitable for the website.
Great.
That works. I think that even makes this a little bit easier for us. You can actually point mentees down there. Okay, go down to this repo and pick up a project that you like to work on and discuss it to mentor, and see if your mentor can help you work on that project. Okay, that also brings me to something extremely very important that has to do with most mentees that are way good in coding already. They just really need some areas of expertise. Like I had to discuss some mentors was asking, if the some mentees rather, I was asking if we can have like a teacher assistant kind of program that a mentee that is like having a senior mentee to junior mentees. Mentees are already very good in coding, being mentors, but are not registered as mentors. So I don't know if we are doing the one-to-one pairing. How do we get to manage a mentee that is way better than his mentor when it comes to the Node.js projects?
Well, you know, there's, you know, various dimensions of our aptitude. And, you know, that sort of scenario, I think, one, you know, on the individual who, you know, feels like they're, you know, super far ahead, slow your roll. Like, you know, if you have someone, you know, that has a lot of experience and, you know, there's a lot of opportunities to learn and listen, and, you know, gain insight into, you know, all of the other things that you know, we really are dealing with when we're dealing with code, right? You know, there's a, you know, common maxim that's, you know, we're really very rarely dealing with just code problems. It's almost always people problems. So, you know, mentorships provides folks the opportunity to, you know, explore some of the dimensions beyond just what you're going to read in the issue, the details of the code, and, you know, gain some understanding about, you know, the whole person, the whole exercise of being a collaborator, being a contributor, and working in open source.
Hey guys, I just want to step in real quick. This is Bill. WS Woodruff. I think I saw a comment in Slack, someone saying something about a teacher's aide role. I think that's a pretty common. Yeah, I think that's a pretty common thing, even if you take a programming class at a school. If you have a student who is excelling or learning very nicely, and if other mentees have questions that they can answer, so the mentors don't have to be bothered with it, I think that could help. Sounds like free help to me.
I agree.
Okay, so this moves us to our...
Okay. That's the part of that I hadn't really digested. So this is, you know, not taking two of the mentors, but adding a mentee, sort of an experienced mentee or a pre-mentor. Right. Okay, I see. Right, I was missing the fact that this was a mentee added to the mix, not a mentor.
As an aside to that, there may also be, I haven't looked at the list of mentees, but there may be people who are specifically interested in getting mentorship on becoming mentors or, you know, becoming moderators or whatever. And those we could maybe, you know, do two birds with one stone by throwing them into another mentor-mentee group just in that role.
So does anybody have any suggestion on how we can manage the onboarding process? Yes, we know we're making use of one-to-one or one-to-many. Like, is there any suggestion on how do we get the mentors matched to a mentee? Like, right. Just in suggestion, does anybody?
I have a thought. I think it would be worthwhile for the people who put their hands up to be mentors to kind of write a small little bio that indicates their area of expertise. Like, you know, I tend to do more tooling and test stuff. That might be boring for half the mentees. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if people could write a little blurb and kind of, that seems worthwhile. And then mentees can kind of self-select if the person's not an expert in an area that they're at all interested in. It kind of helps encourage who should pair with whom, I think. I don't know where that bio lives, but.
I like that idea, but it sounds like a lot of reading for the mentees. So maybe pair that with like an overarching document of, you know, different areas, and then list the mentors that fall under each category there.
Do you suggest like having an issue open So we have the list of projects, then we put the mentors. We have a lot of reading on Earth because you have to go through every mentor's bio and know where the mentor falls, and we have to put this description there. Or do we just have like a list of programs that we want to take care of? Then the managers should fill in or nominate themselves under that process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was more picturing the mentor, like having a document with just categories and let the mentor put themselves into the category that they fall into.
Okay. I don't know if we as a team can come up with some categories that we'll want the mentees to focus on.
So, I'd like to encourage us to keep it simple, and I think we may be over optimizing for the mentees in this first iteration, in the sense that we're actually trying to filter a bit in the first pass, and I'm comfortable with that being a little bit of extra work for the mentees up front, right? That's going to be a natural filtering function that, folks that, take the time to thoughtfully go through and, read and assess the available mentors. And potentially provide feedback if they say, hey, none of my needs are addressed here. I'm going to create an issue and express that, right? So why don't we keep it simple with with encouraging, we have an actionable item. We can invite our mentors to self-identify and create an issue on GitHub, and then we can use those submissions to model some of the path forward. Maybe we're PRing that into a template that we see from that model. But let's keep it simple with a issue. Get our volunteers in. I'd like to track to doing a kickoff on the beginning of June. I think June 1st is like a Saturday, so maybe not June 1st, but the beginning of June. Taking and having everybody signed up, and I'd like to focus the rest of our time on getting some action items that we need to lock into place to be able to kick off this first cohort in June.
Cool. That agrees with me. That just throwing action items out there. That Twilio number. Do you want someone to throw together that little app that will alarm people?
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take that on.
Okay, great.
So it just ends up sending an email to some key folks if someone texts that number, basically.
Right. It's going to basically text all of the team members, right?
Okay.
So, mentorship team, if an issue arises and you have, more than just a moderation incident that everybody that's on the team would get notified about that, and we'd be able to address that rapidly.
Cool. That sounds good. I can take that on.
Thank you, Ben. So we're going to ask our mentors to write this bio. Can anyone take the action item of, I guess, creating an issue that gives folks the instruction to create more issues?
I can do it.
All right. Thanks, AJ. So what are your thoughts in terms of timeline, AJ, on the priorities document? What do you think that do you think that will be usable by us in this June 1st timeline?
I don't believe so. It's moving pretty slowly, unfortunately. Michael's out of town for the next 2 weeks, and we've got a lot of working groups to reach out to, and they only have meetings every so often. But yeah, I'm gonna try to accelerate that and get it moving as quickly as I can.
Okay, so if we get some early input on that, that's great. My expectation, Ben put the number at 20. I think I will be very happy if we get 20 mentors stepping up and putting in their bio. I think with a cohort of 10 to 20 folks, we can help the mentors target their behavior that they're mentoring, and curate that by hand in this first. I'm comfortable and happy to take responsibility for aligning up folks, or I'm also comfortable saying, I'm sorry, it doesn't seem like there's a natural project here, and would you wait until July?
Yeah, I really like the 1 month duration, because if we mess up really bad on the first try, it's not very long till we get to hit the reset button and try again.
Right. Okay, I'm going to take the action item of laying out that timeline of expectations, so we can all map to that. Timeline, and then the final matching. If anyone would like to take a shot at what does the template look like of kicking off an issue or a thread in GitHub, right? So at June 1st, as folks begin to start, we want to catalog and track things in GitHub. Is that a PR that we're commenting on and adding to? Is that an issue that just gets added to and commented on? Does anyone want to take a shot at concepting out that?
Like creating a template, and I don't really get. Can we go over that again?
Yeah. So as we get started in June, I'd like to create a trail, basically some breadcrumbs in GitHub that says, let's say Aguirre, you and I are a mentor and mentee. We'd create an issue that would say, June 1st, Dishaw and Aguirre are starting a mentor-mentee relationship. Dishaw is the mentor, Aguirre is the mentee. They're going to be, they've agreed that they're going to focus on these topics or this project. And that's the first entry. And then, the follow-up to that would be, all right, on June 5th, Dishaw and Aguirre met for an hour. And, that could be enough. But, just, giving us that breadcrumb into, what folks are doing will give us, mechanisms to connect to moderation team, and, basically an audit trail for us to go back and say, all right, Dishaw never showed up. This didn't get kicked off. Aguirre, maybe we could help you and match you with another mentor, or whatever the events that may arise along the way.
Okay, I think the PR is going to be okay. So the mentors can do the adding themselves. So we have a PR where the name, like a table, the name of the mentor and the name of his mentees that is going to be the mentor too, and what they're working on. So each mentor and each mentee just add a review. Probably we can give them an access to add that. Then later on we can revoke the access at the end of that, or we can just keep the Okay, bye.
Bye, Ben. We'll do.
So I think a PR is okay. You can make it to a pull request the way we normally do on Comcom, where everybody has to comment on, like what we did on the travel RSVP list, where we had to comment what we wanted to eat and stuff like that. I think APR is going to be okay.
What? So, Aguirre, do you want to take, just do it in the mentorship repo, create a PR, and just try it, right? Let's see what that, you can use me as, mentor, stand-in, or anybody. Let's just model it out so we get a view of what that looks like, and can confirm that that's going to do what we need.
No, let me just do it. Let me get on it.
Cool, great. All right, I think that covers the main action items. I will add to the end of these meeting notes the action items so everyone has that in front of them. Are there any other action items that folks would like to propose, or that anyone has a suggestion that needs to be done? All right, let's do it. We'll call it here. And thank you, everybody. Really excited. Seems like we have everything in place to get kicked off in June with this, and let's go make it happen.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks. Have a good one.
See you guys.
All right.